"Sir, may I pretend to be your wife?" Alien girl's plea left the human stranger speechless. Liam Grayson scowled at the customs officer as the alien scanned his identification chip for the third time. The Galactic Transport Authority was getting more paranoid by the day. "Problem?" Liam asked, not bothering to hide his irritation. His ship was prepped and waiting, and every minute spent in this bureaucratic hellhole was costing him credits. The officer, a squat, green-skinned Taurian with 4 eyes, blinked its upper set at him. "No problem, human. Just thorough." It handed back his chip. "Proceed to docking Bay 17. Safe travels." Liam grunted his thanks and shouldered his duffel bag. Arcturus Station was a sprawling mess of a spaceport, a hodgepodge of architectural styles reflecting the dozen species that had contributed to its construction over the centuries. Humans were relative newcomers to the galactic scene, but they'd made their presence known quickly enough. He navigated the crowded main concourse, dodging merchants hawking exotic wares and off-duty crew members stumbling from one bar to the next. A trio of Melosians, tall, willowy beings with translucent skin, gave him a wide berth. Typical. Most aliens still found humans unpredictable and slightly dangerous. Fine by him. Liam preferred to travel alone. 37 years of life had taught him that attachments were just complications waiting to happen, and complications got people killed in deep space. He was nearly to his departure gate when the station's alarm system erupted into life. Red emergency lights flashed overhead, and a computerized voice began repeating an announcement in multiple languages. "Security alert! All civilians maintain current positions. Security alert! Damn it," Liam muttered. His cargo was time-sensitive, and delays meant penalties. That's when he saw her. She emerged from a service corridor, moving with the fluid grace of someone trying very hard to appear casual while in a blind panic. Her skin was a soft blue that seemed to absorb the harsh station lighting, making her almost shimmer. Long, silvery white hair cascaded past delicate shoulders, and in her large, expressive blue eyes darted frantically around the concourse. She was clearly humanoid, but definitely not human. Too beautiful, too perfect, like something from an artist's imagination, rather than evolution's random chance. Their eyes met across the crowded hall, and Liam felt an inexplicable jolt. She changed direction immediately, heading straight for him, with purpose. The sound of heavy boots and the distinctive whine of charging weapons announced the arrival of station security, a full tactical team in combat gear, pushing through the crowd with brutal efficiency. The woman reached him just as the first security officer shouted something in a language Liam didn't recognize. She was trembling slightly, her blue skin flushed with a darker hue across her cheeks. Up close, he could see the fine, almost invisible pattern of scales along her temples. "Sir," she whispered, her voice musical despite the fear evident in it, "may I pretend to be your wife, please?" Before Liam could process the absurdity of the request, instinct took over. He dropped his bag and pulled her against him, one arm around her waist, the other hand cupping the back of her head as if they were lovers reuniting after a long separation. "Play along," he murmured against her ear, feeling her stiffen momentarily before melting into the embrace. The security team swept past them, barely giving the embracing couple a second glance. Humans were known for their public displays of affection, another trait that made many aliens uncomfortable. When they'd passed, Liam loosened his grip but didn't fully release her. "Want to tell me why station security is after you?" he asked quietly. Her eyes, a deeper blue than any human's could be, met his. "Not particularly," she replied with surprising candor, "but I'm extremely grateful for your assistance." "I haven't assisted you yet," Liam pointed out. "I've just got my arm around a beautiful fugitive." She smiled then, revealing teeth that were just slightly too sharp to be human. "My name is Asira Nixus, and I believe your ship is prepared for departure?" Liam raised an eyebrow. "How do you know I have a ship?" "Your boots, specialized for zero-G environments. The calluses on your hands, consistent with manual flight controls. The way you carry yourself, like someone used to artificial gravity that's never quite calibrated correctly." She shrugged. "You're a pilot, and given the current security situation, I'd very much like to be wherever you're going." Liam studied her for a long moment. Every instinct honed from years of surviving in the unforgiving void of space told him to walk away. Getting involved with a fugitive, especially one as captivating as Asira Nixus, was exactly the kind of complication he avoided. But something about those desperate blue eyes made him hesitate. "What's in it for me?" he asked finally. Her smile widened, becoming both more genuine and more dangerous. "Adventure, Captain Grayson, and perhaps a bit more." "How do you know my name, Sa'an?" he demanded. She tapped his chest, where his identification chip was still visible in his holder. "It's right there. Now, shall we depart before those unpleasant gentlemen return?" Liam knew he'd regret this. He was already regretting it, but he found himself nodding anyway. "Docking Bay 17, he said. "Try to look like you belong." As they moved through the station, Liam couldn't help but notice how perfectly she matched his stride, how naturally her hand fit into his. Like they'd been partners for years instead of minutes. He was so screwed. "Keep moving and don't look back," Liam muttered, guiding Asira through the crowded concourse with a firm hand at the small of her back. The station's alarms continued to wail, but the initial panic had subsided into a controlled chaos. Izura matched his stride perfectly, her body language shifting before his eyes. The frightened fugitive disappeared, replaced by a confident woman who looked completely at ease on his arm. She even laughed softly at something invisible, leaning into him as if sharing a private joke. "You're good at this," Liam observed quietly. "Survival requires adaptation," she replied, her musical voice carrying just enough to seem natural without being overheard. "Your docking bay is ahead on the left." Liam frowned. "How do you know that?" "I memorized the station layout before I arrived." She offered a small shrug. "I like to be prepared." They approached the security checkpoint for the docking bays. Two bored-looking Vexarian guards, reptilian humanoids with ridged foreheads and naturally armored skin, were checking credentials with typical methodical slowness. "This could be a problem," Liam whispered. "My clearance is for solo travel." Azra's fingers tightened almost imperceptibly on his arm. "Follow my lead." As they reached the checkpoint, she suddenly stumbled, clutching her abdomen with a gasp of pain that sounded alarmingly genuine. Liam instinctively caught her, concern flashing across his face. "Plea," she said to the guards, her voice strained. My cycle. It's early. I need to get to our ship." The guards exchanged uncomfortable glances. Most species in the galaxy were well aware of human reproductive biology and equally aware of how humans preferred not to discuss it publicly. The fact that this blue-skinned female appeared to be experiencing something similar was enough to make them wave the couple through with minimal scrutiny. "That was effective," Liam commented once they were safely past. "Most male sentients across the galaxy share a common trait," Asira replied, straightening up, completely recovered. "Mention female reproductive functions, and they immediately want the conversation to end." Despite himself, Liam chuckled. Guilty as charged. They reached docking bay 17 without further incident. Liam's ship, the Horizon's Edge, waited in her berth. A sleek, mid-sized transport vessel with clean lines and the unmistakable modifications of a ship that prioritized speed over cargo capacity. "She's beautiful," Asira murmured, genuine appreciation in her voice. "She's fast," Liam corrected, though he couldn't help but feeling pleased by her assessment. He pressed his palm against the entry scanner, and the boarding ramp extended with a soft hydraulic hiss. Once inside, Liam sealed the hatch behind them and moved quickly to the cockpit, Asira following silently. He dropped into the pilot's seat and began the pre-flight sequence with practiced efficiency. "Strap in," he instructed, nodding toward the co-pilot's chair. "This might get rough." Asira complied, watching his movements with keen interest. "They'll be locking down all departures soon." "Already on it." Liam's fingers danced across the control panel. "Requesting emergency departure clearance. Medical transport priority." The station's traffic control responded immediately. "Horizon's Edge. State nature of medical emergency." Liam glanced at Asira, who leaned toward the comm unit. "Premature onset of Lasarian reproductive cycle," she stated, her voice tight with convincing pain. "If I don't reach specialized facilities within 6 hours, permanent damage is likely." There was a pause then. "Clearance granted, Horizon's Edge. Proceed to departure, Vector 37. Liam raised an eyebrow as he guided the ship out of its berth. Lysarian, an obscure species from the Andromeda galaxy, Asira explained, settling back in her seat. Their biology is complex enough that few traffic controllers would risk questioning it. You've done this before. It wasn't a question, but she answered anyway. Necessity breeds creativity, Captain Grayson. The Horizon's Edge cleared the docking bay and accelerated smoothly toward the designated departure vector. Through the view screen, the vast expanse of Arcturus Station slowly receded, its gleaming spires and docking arms forming a metallic forest against the backdrop of space. They were nearly clear when the comm system crackled to life again. Horizon's Edge, this is Arcturus Security. Maintain position and prepare for boarding. Repeat, maintain position and prepare for boarding. Liam swore under his breath. So much for the easy way out. He diverted power to the engines, feeling the ship surge forward in response. They can't catch us if we reach jump distance, Isira said, her calm demeanor finally showing cracks as she gripped the edges of her seat. That's the plan. Liam's hands moved with fluid precision across the controls. But they might have... The ship shuddered violently as a tractor beam locked onto their hull. Tractor beams, he finished grimly. Asira's eyes widened. If they board us... They won't. Liam punched a sequence into the navigation computer. Emergency protocols. Authorization Grayson Alpha 9. The ship's AI responded immediately. Warning. Emergency jump sequence within station proximity is against Galactic Transport Authority regulations and may result in... Override, Liam barked. The stars outside the view screen suddenly elongated as the Horizon's Edge tore free from the tractor beam and leaped into hyperspace with a bone-jarring lurch. For several moments, they sat in silence. The soft hum of the engines, the only sound in the cockpit. Finally, Liam turned to face his unexpected passenger. All right, Syra Nixus. Time for some honesty. What exactly did you steal, and who exactly is hunting you for it? She met his gaze steadily, the fear now completely gone from her eyes. Information, the kind that could topple empires. And as for who's hunting me... She paused, a sardonic smile playing at her lips. How much do you know about the Draconian Syndicate? Liam felt his blood run cold. The Draconians were the most feared criminal organization in 3 sectors, an alien cartel known for their brutality and far-reaching influence. Enough to know we're both dead if they catch us. Isira's smile didn't waver. Then we'd better not get caught, Captain. 3 days into their escape, the Horizon's Edge dropped out of hyperspace in the shadow of a gas giant's rings. The massive planet's swirling storms provided excellent sensor cover, and its numerous moons offered plenty of places to hide. We should be safe here for a few hours, Liam said, powering down non-essential systems to minimize their energy signature. The radiation from the rings will mask our heat signature. Isira nodded, her eyes fixed on the navigation console. Over the past 72 hours, they'd executed 5 emergency jumps, each one narrowly evading the Draconian pursuit ships that somehow kept finding them. They're using quantum trackers, she said, not for the first time. It's the only explanation for how they keep locating us so quickly. Liam ran a hand through his hair, the gesture betraying his fatigue. Neither of them had slept more than a few hours since leaving Arcturus Station. Quantum trackers are illegal in every civilized system, he pointed out. Asira gave him a look that made him feel naive. The Draconians aren't exactly known for their strict adherence to galactic law, Captain. Fair point. He leaned back in his chair, studying her. Despite the constant stress and minimal rest, she somehow managed to look composed. Her silvery hair was pulled back in a simple knot, and her blue skin seemed to glow softly in the dim lighting of the cockpit. And you can drop the captain bit. Liam is fine. A small smile played at the corners of her mouth. Very well, is Liam. Something about the way she said his name sent a warmth through him that had nothing to do with the ship's environmental controls. He cleared his throat. I need to check the engine coolant levels. That last jump pushed us pretty hard. I'll monitor the scanners, she offered, already turning back to the console. Liam made his way to the engine room, grateful for the moment alone to collect his thoughts. The past 3 days had been a blur of adrenaline and split-second decisions. With barely a moment to process the fact that he was now harboring a fugitive from the most dangerous criminal organization in the galaxy. And yet, despite the danger, or perhaps because of it, he found himself increasingly drawn to Asira. There was something about her calm competence in crisis, her quick thinking, and yes, her otherworldly beauty that fascinated him. He was tightening a coupling on the coolant system when the ship's proximity alarm blared. Cursing, he sprinted back to the cockpit to find Asira already initiating power-up sequences. 2 Draconian Hunter-class vessel, she reported tersely. They'll be in weapons range in 3 minutes. How the hell did they find us so quickly? Liam slid into the pilot's seat and took manual control, guiding the Horizon's Edge deeper into the planet's ring system. I don't know, Asira admitted, her voice tight, but they're closing fast. The ship shuddered as a warning shot passed close to their starboard side. Liam banked hard, using the larger chunks of ice and rock in the rings as cover. Hold on, he warned, before executing a stomach-lurching dive beneath the ring plane. The pursuing ships followed, their superior firepower offset by the Horizon's Edge's greater maneuverability. They're splitting up, Asira warned, eyes on the tactical display, trying to box us in. Liam grinned, a fierce expression that transformed his face. Let them try. He pushed the ship into a series of evasive maneuvers that strained both the hull and its occupants. The Horizon's Edge danced through the debris field like a needle through fabric, while the larger Draconian vessels were forced to blast their way through. There, Asira pointed to a gap in the rings. If we can reach that moon, we might lose them in the canyons. Liam needed no further encouragement. He poured power into the engines, sending the ship hurtling toward the small cratered moon. Behind them, one of the Draconian vessels clipped a massive ice boulder and went spinning away, its stabilizers damaged. One down, Liam muttered. The remaining hunter was more cautious, but no less determined. It fired again, and this time, a glancing hit rocked the Horizon's Edge. Shields at 60%, Asira reported, her fingers flying over the damaged control systems. That was too close. They skimmed the moon's surface, diving into a labyrinthine canyon system. The Draconian ship followed, its weapons still firing, but finding only rock as the Horizon's Edge weaved through the narrow passages. There's a cave system ahead, Liam said, spotting an opening in the canyon wall. If I can get us inside. He cut power to everything except minimal life support and thrusters, letting the ship glide silently into the dark maw of the cavern. The Draconian vessel roared past, unable to detect them without active sensors. For several long minutes, they sat in near darkness, the only light coming from emergency backups and the faint glow of Asira's skin. Their breathing seemed unnaturally loud in the confined space. That was, Asira began. Insane, Liam suggested. Impressive, she corrected, turning to face him. In the dim light, her eyes seemed to capture and reflect what little illumination there was, giving them an almost hypnotic quality. Most pilots would have panicked. Most pilots haven't spent their lives outrunning trouble, he replied with a shrug that didn't quite convey the casualness he intended. She studied him for a moment, then reached out to touch a cut on his forehead that he hadn't even noticed. You're bleeding. Her fingers were cool against his skin, and he found himself leaning into the contact. It's nothing. It's not nothing, she insisted softly. You risk your life. For me. The air between them seemed to charge with an electric tension. Liam became acutely aware of how close they were in the cramped cockpit, of the subtle scent that emanated from her skin. Something like cinnamon and starlight, if starlight had a smell. Why did you help me? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Back at the station, you could have just walked away. Liam considered deflecting with humor, as he usually did when conversations turned personal. Instead, he found himself answering honestly. I don't know. Something about you? I couldn't just leave you there. Her hand was still on his face, her thumb gently tracing the line of his jaw. Humans are fascinating creatures, she murmured. So impulsive, so passionate. The word hung between them like a promise. Liam swallowed hard, fighting the urge to close the small distance between them. We should check for pursuit, he said, his voice rougher than he intended. But neither of them moved to restore power to the sensors. Instead, Asira leaned forward, her lips brushing against his in a kiss that started tentative, but quickly deepened with mutual hunger. All thoughts of danger temporarily forgotten, They surrendered to the attraction that had been building since that first moment on Arcturus Station. Liam woke slowly, his body pleasantly sore in ways he hadn't experienced in years. The small bunk in the captain's quarters wasn't designed for two, but they'd made it work. Spectacularly well, in fact. He smiled at the memory of the previous night, of Asira's surprising strength and the way her skin had literally glowed in the darkness, it illuminating their shared passion with a soft blue radiance. He reached across the bunk, but found only empty space. Fully awake now, he sat up and scanned the room. Ezra's discarded dress was gone, and so was she. Pulling on his pants, Liam made his way to the cockpit. The ship's systems were running on minimal power, just as they'd left them. No sign of Asira there either. "Computer, locate life signs aboard the vessel," he commanded. "One human life sign detected," the AI responded. "No other biological entities present." A cold feeling settled in Liam's stomach. He quickly checked the airlock logs. No indication she'd left the ship. That meant she was hiding from the internal sensor somehow. Moving with silent caution, he made his way to the cargo hold. The door was partially open, a sliver of light spilling out into the corridor. He could hear soft movements inside. Peering through the gap, he saw Lyra kneeling beside an open panel in the floor. A smuggler's compartment that wasn't on any of the ship's official schematics. She was carefully examining something small in her hands. Liam pushed the door open. "Find what you were looking for?" Asira whirled around, her expression momentarily unguarded, a mixture of guilt and alarm that confirmed his suspicions. In her hand was a small metallic disc, no larger than a thumbnail. "What is that?" he demanded, though he already knew. She straightened, composing herself with remarkable speed. "It's not what you think." "Really? Because it looks exactly like a quantum tracker. The kind that would explain how the Draconians keep finding us." Her eyes, those mesmerizing blue eyes that had looked into his with such apparent passion just hours ago, now regarded him warily. "I didn't know it was there," she said. "I was checking the ship for trackers and found this. In a hidden compartment that isn't on any schematic?" Liam took a step closer. "Try again." For a moment, she seemed to consider maintaining the lie. Then her shoulders slumped slightly. "Fine. I knew it was there, but not because I put it there." "Explain, quickly." "The Draconians planted it on me before I stole from them. It's standard procedure. They tag everyone who works for them just in case." She held up the device. "I've been trying to find it for days. I knew they were tracking me somehow." Liam crossed his arms. "And you didn't think to mention this?" "Would you have helped me if I had?" she countered. "Besides, I wasn't certain. I thought I might have lost it during my escape." The worst part was that her explanation made sense, but that didn't change the fact that she kept it from him, putting them both in danger. "So last night," he began, a bitter taste in his mouth. Her eyes flashed. "Was exactly what it seemed. Don't you dare suggest otherwise." Something in her tone made him want to believe her. Before he could respond, the ship's proximity alarm blared to life. "Draconian vessel detected," the computer announced. "Weapon systems active and targeting." "Damn it!" Liam sprinted back to the cockpit, Asira close behind. The main screen showed a massive Draconian warship moving into position above the moon's surface. "They must have detected our power-up sequence," Asira said, sliding into the co-pilot seat. Liam's hands flew over the controls, bringing the engines online. "We need to get out of this cave and make a run for it." "Wait," Asira pointed to a secondary display showing a tactical analysis. "Look at their positioning. They're not just hunting us, they're hurting us." Liam studied the screen and swore. She was right. The Draconian ship was positioned to drive them toward a specific vector, away from open space and toward a small planetoid in the system. "It's a trap," he muttered. "Commander Drex," Asira said, her voice tight. "It has to be. He's the syndicate's top hunter. This is his signature move, forcing his prey into a corner." Liam pulled up the sensor data on the planetoid. "There's a settlement there. Human colony, looks like. Small outpost, maybe 100 people." "That's the trap," Esra said grimly. "Drex knows humans won't abandon their own kind. He's using them as bait, forcing us to choose between our escape and their safety." Liam's jaw tightened. He's right. I won't leave civilians to face draconian retribution. "They might not even attack the settlement," Asira argued. It could be just a bluff to draw us in. And if it's not, Liam turned to face her, could you live with that, knowing people died because of us? Something flickered in her eyes, a vulnerability he hadn't seen before. No, she admitted quietly, I couldn't. The moment of honesty between them was interrupted by the computer's warning. Draconian vessel launching fighters. Estimated time to intercept, 3 minutes. We need to move, Liam said, powering up the engines. But first, he held out his hand, the tracker. Essera hesitated only briefly before placing the small disc in his palm. Liam immediately crushed it under his boot. Now they'll have to work for it, he said grimly, guiding the Horizon's Edge out of the cavern and into open space. The Draconian fighters immediately gave chase, their weapons fire lighting up the darkness around them. Liam pushed the ship hard, threading through the moon's canyon system with reckless precision. What's the plan? Essera asked, bracing herself as they took a sharp turn. We head for the settlement, Liam replied, his focus absolute, but not the way Drex expects. He thinks he knows how humans will react, predictably noble, rushing in to save the day. A fierce grin spread across his face. Let's show him how unpredictable humans can really be. This is insane, Essera hissed as Liam guided the Horizon's Edge into a steep dive toward the planetoid's surface. We're heading straight for their trap. That's what they'll think, Liam replied, his eyes fixed on the navigation display. But we're not playing by Drex's rules. The Draconian fighters maintain pursuit, their weapons fire coming dangerously close to the ship's engines. Liam pushed the Horizon's Edge harder, skimming the planetoid's upper atmosphere and using the resulting friction to create a trail of superheated particles. What exactly is your plan? Essera demanded, gripping her seat as the ship shuddered violently. Drex expects us to either abandon the colony or rush in heroically to defend it. Liam flashed her a quick, fierce grin. We're going to do neither. With practiced precision, he activated the ship's emergency beacon, a distress signal that would broadcast their position to every vessel within the system. Then in a move that made Essera gasp, he cut power to the engines and let the ship begin a controlled fall toward the surface. Are you trying to kill us? She asked, her voice remarkably steady despite the circumstances. Trust me, he said, meeting her eyes briefly. I need you to prepare a message for Drex. Tell him we're willing to negotiate the data for the colony's safety. Understanding dawned in her eyes. A distraction? Exactly. Liam reactivated the engines at the last possible moment, pulling the ship out of its dive with a bone-jarring lurch. While they're focused on our apparent surrender, we'll position ourselves for a counterattack. Essera nodded and began composing the message. As she worked, Liam guided the ship into a narrow canyon system that would shield them from the Draconian sensors. Message ready, she announced moments later. Send it, Liam instructed, bringing the ship to rest in a sheltered alcove. Now we wait. The response came faster than expected. Commander Drex himself appeared on their view screen, a tall, imposing Draconian with obsidian scales and eyes like burning coals. His voice was a low, menacing rumble. Captain Grayson, how predictably noble of you to surrender for the sake of strangers. Liam kept his expression neutral. I'm a businessman, Commander. This is a business decision. The colony has nothing to do with our dispute. Drex's scaled lips pulled back in what might have been a smile. And you, Essera Nixus, I've been looking forward to our reunion. Essera stepped into view of the communication array. I'm sure you have, Drex, but this isn't personal. We're offering a simple exchange, the data for safe passage. Personal? Drex's laugh was like stones grinding together. You stole more than data, Nixus. You stole from the syndicate. From me. Liam glanced at Essera, noting the tension in her posture. There was history here he wasn't aware of. The terms are simple, Liam interjected. We transfer the data, you guarantee the colony's safety and our free passage. Drex studied them for a long moment. Very well. I will send coordinates for the exchange. You will come alone, unarmed, the data first, then your freedom. The transmission ended abruptly. He's lying, Essera said immediately. Of course he is. Liam was already moving, checking the ship's weapon systems. But now he thinks we're desperate and cornered. That's exactly what we need. While the Horizon's Edge remained hidden in the canyon, Liam outlined his plan. They would appear to comply with Drex's demands, approaching the designated coordinates with shields lowered in apparent surrender. But the distress beacon they'd activated earlier was part of a more complex strategy. The colony has a small defense force, Liam explained, showing Asira the settlement specifications on the tactical display. Not enough to take on a draconian warship, but enough to cause confusion if they attack from an unexpected vector. And our distress signal will alert them to the threat, Asira realized. Exactly. While Drex is focused on us, they can target his ship's primary weapon systems. Liam checked the chronometer. We need to move. The exchange is in 30 minutes. As they prepared to leave their hiding place, Asira caught Liam's arm. There's something you should know about Drex and what I stole. The seriousness in her voice made him pause. I'm listening. It wasn't just credits, she admitted. The data I took contains evidence of a planned syndicate operation, a coordinated attack on 3 major human colonies. They're trying to provoke a war between the Earth Alliance and the Galactic Council. Liam stared at her. Why would they want that? Chaos is profitable, she said simply, and humans have been gaining too much influence too quickly. Many older species resent it. And Drex? He's more than just a syndicate enforcer. He's the architect of the entire operation. And her eyes met his, unflinching. That's why I stole the data. Not for profit, to stop them. Liam absorbed this information in silence. Finally, he asked, why didn't you tell me this before? Would you have believed me, she countered? A con artist with a convenient story about saving humanity? He had to admit she had a point. So this whole time you've been trying to get this information to Earth intelligence, she finished. The syndicate realized what I'd taken and sent Drex after me before I could make contact. The revelation changed everything. What had begun as a simple escape, a pilot and a fugitive thrown together by chance, had become something far more significant. The stakes weren't just their lives anymore, but potentially millions of others. Liam made his decision. Then we make sure Drex doesn't leave this system with that data or his warship intact. Asira's expression softened and she reached up to touch his face gently. You continue to surprise me, Liam Grayson. Most beings would be looking for the fastest way out. I'm not most beings, he replied, catching her hand and pressing a kiss to her palm. I'm human. The moment of tenderness amid danger reminded them both of the night before, the unexpected connection they had found in each other's arms. Despite the betrayal and secrets between them, something genuine had taken root. Ready? Liam asked, returning to the pilot's seat. Asira nodded, her blue skin glowing slightly brighter with determination. Let's show Commander Drex why underestimating humans is a fatal mistake. The exchange coordinates Drex provided led to a barren plateau overlooking the human settlement. As the horizon's edge approached, Liam could see the colony below, a collection of prefabricated structures and small agricultural domes, home to pioneers brave enough to forge a life on this remote world. Weapon systems on standby, Liam said, keeping his voice low despite the fact that Drex couldn't possibly hear them yet. Shields at minimum, just enough to look like we're complying without actually leaving ourselves defenseless. Asira nodded, her fingers dancing across the tactical console. The colony's defense grid is powering up. They've received our warning. Good. Liam guided the ship to a gentle landing on the plateau. Remember, Drex thinks he's outsmarted us. Let's keep it that way until the last possible moment. Through the view screen, they could see Drex's shuttle touching down 50 meters away. The sleek black vessel bore the Draconian Syndicate's emblem, a stylized serpent devouring a star. He's brought friends, Asira observed, as 6 heavily armed Draconian guards exited the shuttle, followed by Drex himself. The commander stood a full head taller than his subordinates, his obsidian scales gleaming in the planetoid's harsh sunlight. So much for coming alone, Liam muttered. Ready? Asira reached across the space between their seats and took his hand. Her skin was cool against his, but her grip was strong. Whatever happens, Liam, thank you for everything. The intensity in her eyes stirred something in him. A feeling he'd been trying to ignore since that first desperate plea in the spaceport. Despite the danger, despite the secrets and complications, he couldn't regret helping her. Let's finish this, he said, giving her hand a squeeze before releasing it. Then we can figure out what comes next. They exited the horizon's edge together, walking side by side across the dusty plateau. Liam had hidden a small blaster in his boot. Not much against draconian armor, but better than nothing. Isira moved with the fluid grace he'd come to admire, her blue skin almost luminous under the alien sun. Drex watched their approach with predatory stillness. Up close, he was even more imposing. Nearly 7 feet of muscle and scale, with eyes that burned like hot coals. "Captain Grayson," the draconian commander rumbled. "And the lovely Isira Nixus. How domestic you look together." "Let's skip the pleasantries," Liam replied coolly. "You want the data. We want safe passage and the colony left alone." Drex's scaled lips pulled back in what might have been a smile. "Of course. Business should always be conducted efficiently." He extended a clawed hand. "The data first." Isira stepped forward, producing a small data crystal from a hidden pocket in her dress. "Everything I took is here. The complete operation plans." As she held it out, Liam tensed, ready for their plan to unfold. The moment Drex took the crystal, the colony's defense grid would target his shuttle, cutting off their escape. Simultaneously, Liam would signal the horizon's edge to activate its automated defense systems, catching Drex's guards in a crossfire. But as Drex reached for the crystal, his burning gaze shifted to something over Liam's shoulder. The smile widened, revealing rows of needle-sharp teeth. "Did you really think I wouldn't anticipate your little trap, Nixus?" Liam spun around to see 3 more draconian shuttles descending rapidly toward the colony, weapons already firing. The settlement's defense grid was responding, but it was clearly outmatched. "No!" Isira gasped. Drex's hand shot out, not for the crystal, but for Isira's throat. Liam reacted instantly, driving his shoulder into the draconian's midsection. Despite the commander's size advantage, the unexpected attack sent him staggering back. "Run!" Liam shouted to Isira, already drawing the hidden blaster. The plateau erupted into chaos. Drex's guards opened fire, forcing Liam to dive behind a rocky outcropping. Isira sprinted toward the horizon's edge, the data crystal still clutched in her hand. Liam provided covering fire, his small blaster woefully inadequate against the draconian's heavy weapons. But it was enough to keep them pinned down momentarily, allowing Isira to reach the ship. He was preparing to make his own dash when a shadow fell over him. Drex loomed above, having circled behind during the firefight. "Humans," the commander hissed, "always so predictably heroic." Liam rolled aside as Drex's clawed hand smashed into the rock where his head had been a moment before. The draconian was incredibly fast for his size, already adjusting his attack. "And you," Liam retorted, firing his blaster point-blank at Drex's face, "are predictably arrogant." The shot glanced off the commander's scaled cheek, leaving a scorched furrow but failing to stop him. Drex roared in pain and rage, lashing out with a powerful kick that caught Liam in the ribs and sent him sprawling. Pain exploded through his chest. At least 2 ribs cracked, possibly worse. Liam struggled to his feet, knowing that staying down meant death. Drex advanced slowly now, savoring the moment. "I'm going to enjoy this, human. Then I'll deal with your treacherous little mate." "You've made one critical mistake," Liam said, backing away and fighting to keep his voice steady despite the pain. "And what might that be?" Drex asked, amused. "You assumed she needs my protection." The horizon's edge suddenly roared to life behind them, its weapon systems targeting Drex's guards with surgical precision. 3 fell immediately, the others scrambling for cover. But the real surprise came from Isira herself. She emerged from the ship's airlock, holding what appeared to be a small remote detonator. "Drex," she called, "remember Cygnus Prime?" The draconian commander froze, his burning eyes widening in what Liam recognized as genuine fear. "You wouldn't," Drex growled. "You'd die too." Isira's smile was cold. "Perhaps, but your operation dies with us, and the evidence of what you plan for the human colonies is already transmitting to Earth intelligence." Liam had no idea what Cygnus Prime referred to, but Drex's reaction told him it was significant. The commander's attention was fully on Isira now, giving Liam the opening he needed. He lunged forward, driving his shoulder once again into Drex's midsection, this time with the full force of desperation behind it. The draconian, distracted by Isira's threat, failed to brace himself. Both of them went tumbling over the edge of the plateau. They fell, grappling in midair, toward a narrow ravine below. Liam knew his chances of survival were slim, but if he could ensure Drex didn't survive either, the colonies would be safe. It was a trade he was willing to make. Just before impact, something caught him. A tractor beam from the horizon's edge, precisely calibrated to his mass. It slowed his descent just enough while letting Drex continue his fatal fall. The Draconian commander's final roar echoed through the ravine, cut short by the sickening crunch of impact. Liam hung, suspended in the tractor beam, pain radiating through his body, but very much alive. Above, he could see Asira at the ship's controls, her face a mixture of relief and determination as she guided him back to safety. As the beam deposited him gently on the plateau, the remaining Draconian guards, seeing their commander fall, began a disorganized retreat. In the distance, the colony's defense grid had managed to disable one of the attacking shuttles, while the others were breaking off their assault. "That was either the bravest or stupidest thing I've ever seen," Asira said as she helped him into the ship, her arm supporting his injured side. "Probably both," Liam admitted, wincing as each breath sent fresh pain through his ribs. "What was that about Sickness Prime?" "A bluff," she confessed. "Mostly. There was an incident there years ago, a syndicate operation gone wrong. Drex lost half his forces to an explosive device I'd planted. He's been paranoid about it ever since." "Remind me never to get on your bad side," Liam said, attempting a smile despite the pain. Once inside the ship, Asira helped him to the medical bay, her touch gentle but efficient as she activated the autodoc to assess his injuries. "We need to finish this," she said, her expression serious. "Drex is dead, but his warship is still in orbit, and they'll have copies of the operation plans." Liam nodded grimly. "Then we take the fight to them. One final push." "You're injured, Jimordis," she protested. "I've flown with worse." He caught her hand, his eyes meeting hers. "We started this together. We'll finish it together." Something passed between them in that moment, an understanding deeper than words. Whatever came next, whatever the future held after this crisis, they would face it as partners. "Besides," Liam added with a pained grin, "I still haven't properly thanked you for saving my life back there." Asira's skin flushed a deeper blue, her eyes sparkling with a mixture of emotions. "Let's survive the next few hours and you can thank me properly." The promise in her voice gave Liam all the motivation he needed to push through the pain. They had a warship to destroy, colonies to save, and a future, however uncertain, to secure. "This is either brilliant or suicidal," Asira whispered as they crept through the maintenance shaft of Drex's warship. Possibly both." "I prefer audacious," Liam replied, wincing as his injured ribs protested the cramped movement. The autodoc had patched him up with regenerative bandages and painkillers, but he'd need proper medical attention eventually. They'd managed to dock the Horizon's Edge with the Draconian warship during the confusion following Drex's death. The colony's defense forces had launched a coordinated attack on the vessel's lower quadrants, drawing attention away from the small transport ship attaching itself to a secondary airlock. Now they were making their way toward the ship's central data core, where all copies of the attack plans would be stored. Asira led the way, her knowledge of syndicate vessel layouts proving invaluable. "2 guards ahead," she murmured, peering through a ventilation grate. "Standard rotation pattern. We'll have a 15-second window when they check the adjacent corridor." Liam nodded, checking the charge on the Draconian blaster he'd taken from one of Drex's fallen guards. "Ready when you are." They waited in tense silence until the guards moved away, then Asira deftly removed the grate. They dropped into the corridor and moved swiftly toward the data core. "Something's wrong," Asira said suddenly, stopping at an intersection. "There should be more security here." As if summoned by her words, an alarm began to blare throughout the ship. A computerized voice announced in multiple languages, "Self-destruct sequence initiated. All personnel evacuate. Detonation in 15 minutes. Drex, Liam realized. He must have had a dead man's switch. "Of course he did," Asira hissed. "The paranoid bastard." They abandoned stealth and ran for the data core, encountering panicked Draconian crew members who were too focused on their own escape to notice the intruders. The massive ship had already begun to shudder as non-essential systems shut down in preparation for the final detonation. The data core itself was a cavernous chamber dominated by towering servers and pulsing energy conduits. At its center stood a control terminal, currently unattended. "Cover me," Asira said, rushing to the terminal while Liam positioned himself at the entrance, blaster ready. Her fingers flew across the alien interface with practiced ease. "I need to purge all copies of the operation plans and make sure they can't be recovered." "How long?" Liam asked, eyeing the corridor nervously. 3 minutes, maybe 4. "We've got company," he warned as a group of Draconian officers appeared at the far end of the corridor, spotted them, and raised their weapons. Liam ducked back as energy bolts sizzled past the doorway. He returned fire, forcing the Draconians to take cover, but he was outnumbered and outgunned. "Asira, we need to hurry!" "Almost there," she called back, her voice tight with concentration. "The system's fighting me." A bolt grazed Liam's shoulder, searing through his shirt and into the flesh beneath. He grunted in pain but maintained his position, determined to give Asira the time she needed. "Got it!" she finally exclaimed. "All copies deleted, and the deletion cascaded to their backup servers. They can't recover the plans." "Time to go," Liam said, firing a final volley to keep the Draconians pinned down. They sprinted through a different corridor, following Asira's mental map of the ship. The evacuation was in full swing now, with crew members rushing toward escape pods. In the chaos, Liam and Asira were just 2 more figures trying to escape the doomed vessel. 10 minutes to detonation, the ship's computer announced dispassionately. They reached the airlock where the Horizon's Edge was docked, only to find it guarded by a single Draconian officer who recognized them immediately. "You!" he snarled, raising his weapon. Before he could fire, Liam tackled him, driving both of them to the floor. The pain in his ribs exploded anew, but adrenaline kept him moving. They grappled briefly before Asira delivered a precise strike to the Draconian's neck, rendering him unconscious. "Nice move," Liam gasped, struggling to his feet. "Pressure point technique," she explained, helping him up. "Works on most reptilian species." They cycled through the airlock and back into the familiar confines of the Horizon's Edge. Liam immediately headed for the cockpit, powering up the engines while Asira sealed the airlock behind them. 5 minutes to detonation. The docking clamps released with a metallic clang, and Liam guided the ship away from the Draconian vessel as quickly as he dared. All around them, escape pods were launching, fleeing the imminent explosion. "We're not going to clear the blast radius in time," Asira said, strapping herself into the co-pilot seat. Liam's eyes narrowed in concentration. "Yes, we will!" He pushed the Horizon's Edge to its limits, the engines screaming in protest as they accelerated away from the warship. The planetoid loomed ahead, its gravity both a danger and a potential shield. 2 minutes to detonation. "Hang on," Liam warned, executing a maneuver that sent them skimming along the planetoid's upper atmosphere. The friction created a superheated plasma trail behind them, but also gave them the velocity boost they desperately needed. 1 minute to detonation. They rounded the planetoid just as the Draconian warship exploded in a spectacular ball of energy and debris. The shockwave caught them, sending the Horizon's Edge tumbling, but the planetoid absorbed the worst of the blast. Liam fought the controls, eventually stabilizing their flight path. For several long moments, they sat in silence, processing their narrow escape. "We did it," Asira finally said, her voice filled with wonder. "We actually did it." Liam turned to her, taking in her disheveled silver hair, the smudges of dirt on her blue skin, and the fierce light of triumph in her eyes. She had never looked more beautiful. "Not bad for a fake married couple," he said with a grin. She laughed, the sound pure and unrestrained. "I think we've moved well beyond pretending, don't you?" 3 days later, they sat on the observation deck of an Earth Alliance outpost, watching ships come and go against the backdrop of stars. Earth intelligence had debriefed them extensively, grateful for the evidence they'd provided of the syndicate's planned attacks. The colonies were safe for now. Liam's injuries were healing well under proper medical care. Asira, officially granted asylum by the Earth Alliance, sat beside him, her hand comfortably entwined with his. "What now?" she asked, turning to face him. "You're a free man again. No more fugitives to harbor. No more criminal syndicates to fight." "I was thinking of taking a vacation," he replied, tracing the delicate pattern of scales along her temple with his free hand. "Somewhere quiet. Maybe with company, if a certain blue-skinned con artist is interested." Her skin glowed softly in response to his touch, a reaction he'd come to adore. Ex-con artist, she corrected. Earth Intelligence offered me a consultant position. Apparently, my unique skill set could be valuable. Look at us, Liam chuckled. A smuggler and a con artist turning respectable. Not too respectable, I hope, she murmured, leaning in to kiss him. When they finally parted, Liam studied her face, memorizing every detail. You know, when you asked me to pretend to be your husband back on Arcturus Station, I never imagined it would lead to this. Neither did I, she admitted. It was just supposed to be a quick escape, a convenient lie. And now? Her eyes met his, no longer hiding behind pretense or fear. Now I'm thinking perhaps we should make it less of a pretense? Liam's heart skipped a beat. Are you proposing to me a Cyronixus? I'm suggesting that the role suited you rather well, she replied with a mischievous smile, and that I've grown quite fond of being your wife, pretend or otherwise. He pulled her close, marveling at how perfectly she fit against him. Then let's stop pretending. As they sealed their agreement with another kiss, Liam reflected on the strange path that had brought them together. A desperate plea from a beautiful stranger had changed everything, proving once again that the universe's greatest adventures often began with the most unexpected encounters. And he wouldn't have it any other way.